many of you know, I grew up in a family of 5. I was the middle of 5 kids. And we, growing up, played lots of games. My gaming history began with Candyland and Chutes and Ladders. We moved on to checkers and Chinese checkers, and then Monopoly and Scrabble, and the list went on and on. I still play games with my siblings when we're together. We played a lot of card games too. We had Rummy and War. Did you ever play War with cards? Your opponent sat around, everyone flipped over a card, and whoever had the highest card would gather them in, and the winner was the one who gathered the most cards. And if there was a tie, like if there were 2 jacks, the first person to slap his or her hand down would win. So we're always ready to do that. Did you ever play I Doubt It? How many of you have played I Doubt It? Not very good. Again, cards were dealt out, and the first person to let go of all of his or her cards would win. And it started with the dealer. He or she would put down, he'd name a card like a jack. He'd put down 1 jack, or 2 jacks, or 3 jacks. And maybe the person was telling the truth, and maybe not. And if you didn't think that that was the case, you'd say, I doubt it. You'd turn it over, and if there were the 3 jacks, whatever was said, you'd gather them up. But if he or she lied, the liar would take that and all the other cards below. And Jack, and then Queen, and King, Ace, and go down to 2, and a fun game. I doubt it. Well, that leads us into the main character of distinction today, Doubting Thomas. Doubting Thomas. We heard about him in the gospel this morning. Born in the state of Missouri. Get it? Show me state. And poor Thomas has gotten a bad rap over the many decades and centuries. Here's this fellow who was with Jesus for 3 years, and he was not with the 10 disciples on that evening of the first day of the week. Thomas was not there. And I've heard sermons that, yeah, poor Thomas, he lost his faith. He went away from his disciples. He was moping in some corner. I don't believe that about Thomas. The little we hear about Thomas in the Gospels was that he was a very earnest follower. He was willing to die for the Lord. I believe that Thomas wasn't there the first time around, but because he and his suffering, we're kind of like that, aren't we? When we're going through a bad time, we like to back off from family and friends, become a loner, and not mope, but work through that suffering alone. I think that was the case with Thomas. But the next week, he did appear, which lends me to believe that the other 10 didn't kick him out. He was still a member of that disciple faith community, and they welcomed him back. Perhaps it was the faith of the 10 that carried his faith during that time of questioning and heartache. And then Jesus knew the words that Thomas had said, unless I see the nail prints and stick my hand in his side, I'm not going to believe. So what was the first thing that Jesus said to him? A week later, his disciples were in the house again. Jesus said to Thomas, without talking to him, put your finger here, see my hands, reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. If you're going to crack on Thomas, you need to crack on the other 10, because we read that after he said this to the 10, peace be with you, he showed them his hands and side. So the original 10 saw his wounds, and the wound in his side, and they believed. So if you want to put the same criteria on Doubting Thomas, put it on the 10, and actually put it on everyone. Did you know that unless we see Jesus, none of us believe? You know that well-known phrase of Jesus, because you have seen me, you have believed, speaking to Thomas and the 10. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. I have a paraphrase of that statement of Jesus, which I think is true to what he was wanting to communicate. He's saying to Thomas and the 10 and to us, you needed the eyes of sight to make you believe, but the days will come when men will see with the eyes of faith and will believe. You see, everyone needs eyes in order to see Jesus. The original 10, well, Thomas 11 and others, saw the resurrected Jesus with their physical eyes. We need the same thing to happen. We need to see him with our eyes, but not with physical eyes, the eyes of faith. The eyes of faith. I've said before in a couple of sermons that we're all born blind. We're born spiritually blind. And unless the Lord takes the scales off our spiritual eyes and gives us eyes of faith, we will not believe. So I'm thinking that the 10 and Thomas and everyone in this room and everyone in Chillicothe and the whole world need to see Jesus. I mentioned before that my dad lived out in California for a number of years, and he went to a non-denominational church in Cupertino, California, and there was a big carved wooden pulpit, and the pastor would stand behind that, and inscribed, etched in wood, was the 4 words, we would see Jesus. That's the King James. The New International says, we want to see Jesus. So every Sunday and other times the congregation would come and they wanted to see Jesus with their eyes of faith. They wanted to sense his presence and know through faith that he is real, and that he died and rose from the dead. It's interesting, as I've studied the Gospel of John, faith to John is not a noun. Faith is a verb. Now, I preached that about love, and that makes sense. Love is not a noun, biblically speaking. Love is a verb. Like the little phrase, the love in your heart wasn't meant there to stay. Love isn't love until you give it away. In that sense, love is a verb. God loved the world so much that what? He did something. He gave his only Son that whoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. I think the same thing is with faith. Faith isn't a noun. Faith is a verb. Faith is what you do. Faith is how you live. And in this sense, I think Thomas didn't have faith and then lose it and then find it again when he saw Jesus. He had faith, and read about Thomas in the 4 Gospels. He followed Jesus, was willing to die for him, but he went through a time of questioning. And in that sense, skepticism and doubt and questioning are a normal thing of walking with the Lord. And he kept walking with the Lord even though he wasn't in the room the first time Jesus came. But his walking with the Lord, eventually he appeared again a week later, and then Jesus appeared. He saw his faith was strengthened, and he continued to walk with the Lord, for faith is a verb. Now, faith has content, your belief system, what you believe about God, factual history. That's an important piece to keep us on the right track. But I encourage you to think this week about faith being a verb. It's what you do. Wasn't it Paul? No, it was James who said, faith without works doesn't exist. Faith without works is dead. So what we do, how we live, what we say, the stewardship of our life, that's faith. That's faith. So I'm thinking that this Thomas character is just like us. He continued to walk with the Lord even during this time of sorrow and disillusionment and doubt, and then was jump-started by seeing physical eyes, the risen Christ. So take heart, all you Thomases. Last Sunday, we had a big crowd here, and I was aware that there were probably some folks who didn't believe this thing about Jesus rising from the dead. And that's okay. They sang with us, they heard the word being broken, and hopefully, perhaps some of them down the road will be given eyes of faith to see Jesus.